Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of River City 93. The reason why I'm smiling and the reason why Matt is smiling is because since the first time since 2014, Richmond has a home playoff game. The result of that, which is because Richmond drew, Omaha drew, and Greenville drew. Literally, it's been the same result for the last 3 weeks, and we just happened to back our way into a home playoff game.
Oh,
We're not back. Okay, yeah, I can say that back our way. We haven't won the
earned
last three like
results.
we should have.
Earned results.
This one, yes. This was definitely our earned result.
Yeah, you can't call it backing in, to the top spot when you're 5 points ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you couldn't, but
I mean, you could, but you'd be
there's
very
no one else out there that decides they want to have the number one spot, so Richmond will gladly take it.
right. But even you would have had to change your results of two other games for any one of those teams to make up that gap.
This is also true. Well, we have a lot to talk about. Matt, how are you doing? You went down to Georgia, supposed to go to the game, then Hurricane Ian hit or didn't hit, but you still had to come back at the same time.
Yeah, didn't end up making it to the game. Didn't see a drop of rain in Georgia for 3 days, but so they called it early. Didn't seem to impact anything that I could be able to see or tell. But in the end, I'll take the draw. We'll one step forward, and it's all but a done deal at this point.
Oh yeah, it's all but a done deal, man. And we'll get into that further along in the podcast. But man, I think we got a lot to talk about in this game because it kind of shows you all about what the kickers are about. I know the stat the announcer was throwing out there last night is like I think we've only let in 18 goals from open play, which is the league lowest, but we've let in 15 set piece goals or something like that.
Yeah, I would want to see like what they're counting as like open play goals because that number sounds a little bit low.
Yeah. Well, I mean, altogether, we've only let in 34 goals. So, I wouldn't imagine be that high. But it does feel as if this team, Achilles heel, is happy to be set pieces. And we kind of saw it again in this game.
Yeah, listen to the last like 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Same conversation.
Same thing, man. And look, it's the same thing of, it's not like, I don't know, man. It's just like the dumbest thing will happen. Like the first goal that happened against us this one, where it took a unsightly deflection and it goes to the back of the net, where Kara just happens not to be dominated.
Yeah, well, we can come back to that, but I feel like probably a lot of this story starts with the lineup and who wasn't available even.
Yeah, right. Let's get into that. So for those who are not Instagram, I just shouldn't say we're stalkers. Instagram followers.
Users.
Yeah.
Like it was hidden out there.
Right. Let's go for that out there. We saw that EVD is out with the rest of the year with a torn Achilles. So we're definitely wishing him all the best, man. And I felt bad for him, man, because he just seemed like he was just coming right back into form, like he was doing really well. And I know that he missed a large chunk of that Union Omaha season because of injury. It just sucks for him,
Yeah, I mean, especially obviously that injury would suck any time of year because thankfully I've never had that injury, but it sounds like an absolutely brutal one to come back from. And right as you're gearing up for the playoffs, have a chance to really be a key piece on another championship contender. I mean, unfortunate timing there, so you definitely feel for him. You don't want to see anybody have to go through that, but also it puts a bit of a dent into the really deep bench quality that the kickers had. That's one more piece that's not in Darren and Mika's hands anymore.
Yeah, that is true, man. And I definitely wish all the best for him to come back. I know that injury usually takes like what, a year to come back from.
I mean, certainly like olden days. I don't know if they've got some kind of new recovery for that because I mean, like ACLs used to take forever to come back from, and now it seems like guys are coming back in 6 months. From that, so we don't know if they've approved Achilles surgery and recovery or not, but
Yeah, I don't know because I remember like when KD got it. KD was out for the better part of a year, so I don't know. It feels who knows. If we see him in any part of next year, I think it'll be a miracle in itself.
Yeah, so we'll see. But certainly, made a good impact even in the couple of months that he was available for the team. When we first picked him up, we were saying what, like 2 goals, 3 assists, something like that would be a quality output from him, and I think he's right around those numbers.
I think so. I think so. I think the last check, I think he's right. 2 goals, maybe 2 assists. I think.
Yeah.
I want to say. But yeah, talking about him, another player that we missed in his lineup was Stu Ritchie.
Yep.
Definitely missed out on this game as well.
Yeah, we saw this one coming. I think last week we were talking about, all right, maybe you hold Stu out just as as a precaution. I know Darren had talked to you post game, said that they didn't think it was anything too serious. They'd be back in training in a day or two. But I know last week we both agreed, like, hey, Simon's there. Give him some run out. No need to take an unnecessary chance in this game. And I think we'll talk about it, but I think that worked out just fine as a result.
Yeah.
But at the same time, would love to see Stu back out there.
I would too. I mean, we talked about a bunch of the show, but I think like once again, what you gain in Stu is what you lose in Simon, and vice versa. Simon did a really good job defensively. I think both our fullbacks in this game really were the standout players in this game for how they played and controlled the wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of parts of the game where there wasn't much to write home about.
Yeah,
for being totally honest. Probably the first half hour or so, kind of a snoozer. But that also usually means that your defensive orientation is working out pretty well.
Yeah, it seemed to be that way. And I mean, once again, like we talked about before, like this team hasn't let up a goal from open play in a while. Happy to come from a set piece, but the way how Sabi came in, the way how Stefan stepped up, I mean, the back four of this Richmond Kickers team is really solid.
Yeah, again, outside of that one issue, they don't beat themselves a lot of times. Like they know what they can do, and they don't put themselves in bad spots very often. No. There's been obviously there's always a little blip here or there over the course of a season. That's just going to happen in soccer. But the strategy is there. Kind of building into another topic that we'll certainly talk about. Akira doesn't set that single season save record by accident.
Yeah, no.
And you don't set that record as a first place team by accident if it's not with a sound defensive strategy to let teams take these low percentage shots from distance. Because Tormenta might have had a big number on the board for shots on target, but how many of them really seemed exceptionally challenging for Akira? And same thing throughout the year. He's maybe making one tough save a game.
Yeah.
But
I mean that's true too. Maybe 2 tops, but he's not really making that many tough saves.
Yeah, most of them are just being funneled straight into the breadbasket every single time, and I mean that might as well just be a misplaced pass.
Pretty much. I mean, I can think about the one save that Akira had that was actually a really, really beautiful save. It came off of us where I can't remember who did the throw in, but it was a bad throw in. Mm-hmm. And I think it was because I certainly got on the end of it.
Yep.
And Akira stood up and saved the shot.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, other than that one, a lot of them were just square, right down, the fast lane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, that's the way how Darren sets his teams up to play, and so far it's worked. I think Akira. By the way, Akira's about to break a bunch of records. Like he just had the most saves in the USL League One season. The first goalkeeper to have 100 saves in the USL League One season. So you got to figure with 2 games left to go, that record's going to be way out there, and it's probably never going to be touched again. But on the Greenville game, he actually breaks 100 caps from the Richmond Kickers, which I got confirmed by Nathan. So I mean, that's pretty dope for Akira as well. I mean, this guy's about to break 100 caps.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been a mainstay in the League One era is. I think there's been a few different times that we were wondering, hey, are we seeing the end of the Akira era? And he keeps slapping us and saying, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet and let me show you."
Yeah, that's pretty much was me. I think like 2 years ago, I was like, all right, this might be it. This might be it. But I mean, hey, look, the man is a living legend. I think Richmond has shown itself again to be a goalkeeper FC with the long stay of goalkeepers they have had.
Yeah,
Keep having.
definitely.
Yeah.
And there's that sense of kind of peace that you have with knowing you have a reliable goalkeeper back there that is hard to appreciate until he's not there.
That Inter Miami game will always live in my memory.
Yeah, that. Or I mean, just think about lots of other teams that are out there. Think about now I'm blanking on even
Oh,
the
like Union Omaha this weekend.
yeah, like
Yeah.
New, who's been a mainstay for them, and this other guy okay, yeah, ooh, scored a goal, big who cares when you're not reliable when you need it, what's the point?
Yeah, very much sure. Very much sure. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's dive into this game. Like you said, Matt, it wasn't the first 30 minutes or so wasn't all that interesting. It felt like, first of all, Toronto got a new stadium. Can't remember the stadium name because it's too weird. Too long to say.
Stadium should be in quotes at this point.
It should be. It's really just like a lot of grass with bleachers and some cool lights behind it.
Yeah, it looks like a bigger version of like the main field at UCrop Park.
Perfect example.
Right.
There you go, folks.
Right. You got that, and then they have the same lights that everybody else has now with the like epilepsy, service for when something happens. So annoying.
I think when they scored, like the whole screen went blank, and I was like, "Oh my god, did I lose connection?" And then I realized, like, "Oh no, that's just stadium lights going berserk."
But they're trying to rival Chattanooga. It looks like Chattanooga has the obscenely massive big screen. Tormenta now has the obscenely massive pile of dirt behind the goal.
That is funny. Just like a big ton of dirt sitting right there. But yeah, man. I mean, I think first of all, I know we're taking little jokes at Tormenta, but it's real cool to see like you as a League One team starting to get their own stadiums. I know that's like an issue in the other league, like NISA, where teams are playing whenever and wherever they can, and teams are just dropping out of league because they don't have a stable stadium. You see teams like Chattanooga, Tormenta, I think Grievo's in the works, Omaha's in the works, Central LA Fuego are getting their own stadium. That's real cool and dope to see. They're starting to be stable ground and stuff like that.
Yeah. I hope they work on improving the actual field.
Well, yeah, we can all hope for that. But yeah, let's go back. Let's turn back to the game. So Richmond coming to this game down 2 key players in this, but the players that were playing, so Matt Bentley and Simon Fitch, fit in perfectly. We've seen them before, but it just felt like the first 30 minutes or so, it felt like Richmond was uncomfortable. It just always felt like Toronto was kind of like a gear ahead of us at certain points.
Yeah, part of it is just standard Richmond away, right? Yeah, it's the team doesn't necessarily come out like white hot on the road like you do at home sometimes, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't maybe make for the most exciting play, but it's effective.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you an idea of how to sense what the opposition is hoping to be able to do, what they're looking for throughout the game. I mean, there were little half chances here and there. Like I think Emmy had a look or two, early on, but yeah, there wasn't much going on in terms of the attack. But to be fair, Tormenta didn't have a ton going on early either. I think Sterling had a very, very quasi breakaway, but it wasn't. It's more like he just had space to run into, and our defenders let him have that, and then he, surprise, shot a roller right at Akira.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what it felt like, and also like I know because Zion Sterling has been really effective this year for Tormenta this year. But against Richmond, man, I think Richmond's done a really good job of bottling him up and not allowing him to kind of get off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause where a lot of his goals come from is getting in the right space in the box.
Yeah.
He's not a big time dribbler and create his own shot. He's a guy who's an opportunist. Not quite in the same way that Emmy is. Necessarily. He can play a little bit more bully ball if he needs to because he's a big boy. But you got Jalen back there to be able to body up with them. Dakota only seems small because he's next to Jalen or next to Alney most of the time, but he's a pretty sizable dude himself, and they can be able to kind of push him off his game maybe a little bit better than some of these other teams in the league do.
Yeah. No, it definitely you get that sense of. I will say this: I think Jalen Dakota does a really good job of bottling him up. I think the player for Tormenta that kind of puts me on, it makes me nervous, much like how Marco Micheletto did, is Kings. I can't remember his last name.
Let's call him Kingsford.
Yeah, there you him. He's a player that, like, when he gets the ball in his feet, I'm like, oh god, like what's about to happen now? Because he's just so tricky with it. But it's also like a player that's very easy to foul.
Yeah, he's like a leveled up JT Kamara from North Carolina last year.
Right. Like he's kind of like the guy that can change the whole game, and like where he picks up his fouls at, or where Richmond players were kind of tackling him at, was like right around the 18-yard box. So they're picking up all these dangerous free kicks and whatnot right in front of the 18-yard box.
Yeah, he's definitely a dangerous player. Been a key factor in why Tormenta has worked their way up into not a fully safe playoff spot yet, but pretty close to it, and they'll definitely be have every chance in the world to be able to take the 2 seed, potentially. But yeah, I definitely see why he can give you a little bit of worry as a viewer of the game.
Yeah,
yeah, I thought you were going to say Bill Meyer because that dude just seems to keep on.
He's another one too. Bill Hart is another one that I don't. Bill Hart doesn't scare me as much as Kingsford, just because of the dribble ability. But Bill Hart, I don't know. He just
I feel like
at the right moment for stuff.
I feel like he's more of like the Micheletto style of he just ends up beating you. You don't really know how. He just shows up and just daggers you.
I think that's it. Like I can't explain it, but you just explained it for me. Like you don't know how he's beating you, but he is beating you some kind of fashion.
Yeah.
So, I think that kind of described the first 30 minutes, but I don't want to labor the point again because we talk about it almost every week now on the show about set pieces and what the rich kickers are doing. We know what they're doing. We know what's happening. It's just it ends up taking a weird bounce, and sometimes you can't defend against a weird bounce.
Yeah, this one is, I guess, in the most technical sense, a set piece issue, but it's really more of a second, third ball issue coming off of a set piece.
I agree with that. I think the clearance of the set, because if the ball is properly cleared, this chance never happens.
Right.
It never happens. And I'm trying to think, was it Simon or Dakota got the last touch? Or they kind of like they're falling away, they kind of get like a foot to it. Instead of it going out, it kind of just goes like kind of just straight to the direction.
The one coming out of the box?
Yeah.
I think that was Zaka.
Was it? I can't tell. I just looked at it so much I couldn't tell who it was. But whoever it was, it just wasn't a good clearance. Like, it just wasn't a ball that was properly cleared out to kind of sort it away. So, yeah, the second and third ball chances were killing us in that moment.
Yeah, and look, I'm still not 100% convinced that whatever the dude's name was, the Tormenta player, was the one who actually scored. And I think it might have been another.
I think it was Jalen. I honestly think it was, because when you go back and look at it, it looked like it's Jalen's knee that just pushes it into that corner.
I don't know if they're just showing mercy on our man there.
I think they were. Like, we can't give this dude 2 goals back to back.
I feel like the other option, there is the Tormenta player, tries to flick it and hits it off his own butt.
That's
or his
probably
hip or
another
something.
option.
Because I don't see how else he gets the ball to go that direction.
Yeah, no,
I don't
I
think
think
he.
it's a Jalen
I don't
own
think he meant.
goal. I think it's just the momentum goes that way.
Yeah, yeah. New stadium. They don't want the first goal to be not their guy if they can help it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think that's what it was. And I mean, even there was another free kick opportunity happening at the top of the box. Guy was just offside, but I think we're living a reverse scenario, which this game just because of very quicksand game. If he's not offside, I think Akira just did a poor job of saving it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like for all the good we were talking about with Akira, a few minutes ago, first half he did leave a few rebounds out there, even on the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a save, and it kind of. I wonder if he could have been able to corral that ball a little bit better on that save.
Yeah, I think that's something like Darren and me are gonna kind of go over and try to correct for the next two games coming up. Because I mean, effectively, like the next two games really don't. I'm not gonna say they don't matter, but I feel like you can experiment a little bit more and try to correct stuff in before you go into the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, there's still work to be done, but at the same time, I think that there's reason to believe that everything is going to sort itself out pretty much no matter what you do.
Right. So, I mean, the second half of this game is kind of like the same thing. It kind of felt as the first half. I will say this: it felt like Richmond was pressing more, and we were being more aggressive. And a lot of those balls that were getting cut out in the midfield, instead of getting cut out in the midfield, were now getting cut out in the final third by Tormenta. But I will say this: I think Tormenta, out of any team in USL League One, outside of maybe the second game, they do a good job of trying to cut out that pass to Bolaños. For the most part, like if you look at all three games as a body of one, I think they do the best job of kind of stifling our midfield and stifling Bolaños in terms of giving them like just the open spaces of getting behind.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where you've seen teams basically purposely try to take him away.
Yeah.
But that would then open up other areas. So and I thought he still got quite a few good looks. Like he had inches away from his own goal. He was.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was in. I thought that header from Bolaños was in. Like the speed at which he was coming and the way he cut in across, I thought that was in.
The announcer seemed uninterested in it.
Right.
Like if you were just listening, you would have had no idea that anything happened there. Just same flat voice as the ball rings off the crossbar.
Like what? Like you were like, oh, okay. Watching that, I was like, oh. The other chance I thought that was really good was Ethan Bryant. I thought he had a really good chance, but I don't know.
And that another one that came straight from Bolaños.
Right. And I don't know what it is, man, but that's the second time Ethan Bryant has done that where he has like this really good chance and he just shoots it right to where the goalkeeper's going to be at.
I mean, I think you got to give that one just to the keeper making a good save.
Well, of that what he did. I didn't expect the goalkeeper to get that. I thought that was another one was going to be in the back of the net. Goalkeeper just got there. Unexpectedly for me. But I think for the second half myself, like I think the biggest frustration I had was just we did a lot. I'm not gonna say we got beat up in the midfield, but I felt like this team wants to go very, very quick on the counterattacks. But in order to do it, you have to execute those passes, and it felt like a lot of the passes we weren't executed on. Like we would either take a little bit too long in the midfield, or like the first pass was on, so then we were struggling to find a second option. Things like that. It just felt like we were just kind of like a step behind, lagging as the game went on a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I felt the same way with that. I obviously nothing's perfect, right? But you look at the passing stats for the game. I mean, 78% accuracy with the passing. 43% on the long balls. So kind of fix those numbers out, and a lot of the passes were that were reasonable were actually pretty accurate. I think it's just a matter of perception sometimes. Like in a tense game where you're chasing a goal, I think mistakes can start to feel a little bit more than if you're in a game where you're 2-0 up, where it's like, okay, I'll just recover here. something like that. So, I mean, yeah, there was definitely probably some truth to the way you were looking at it and the things that were happening there, but I don't think it was necessarily out of the ordinary. And in fairness, I watched the game afterwards, knowing what the result was, so that's why I wonder a little bit if it is kind of the game the game state of the watcher between knowing what's coming and not knowing what's coming, and having that exacerbate your feeling.
Yeah, I think that might have been it because watching it, like, granted, now if you go back and rewatch this game, you kind of already know what's happening. So you're kind of like, all right, Richmond's not going to be at the executing best level because the game ended 1-1. Like, all right, something had to lead to that result. We're watching it live, you're kind of just like, all right, we're not executing here. We're not creating this pass. We're not finishing this chance. Like, all right, like this game literally came down to the 94th minute, which we got to take. I want to take a moment. Neil Vingals. When he took the chance, in my head, I was like, oh, he went in the back of the net. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Then I thought, like, wait, did he score that? Because I didn't know if Ani got a head onto him. But the way how they're writing this up is like, no, Neil scored this from almost Curry range.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those classic things that coaches always teach, like play the crosses to the back post, because if nobody hits it, it might just find its own way in. Because the goalkeeper can't commit too early on it, because if he doesn't, anybody gets any touch on it, he's out to dry. And then it worked out. I think we've probably complained a few times this year about really just garbage goals, going through. Maybe a little bit of retribution for us there.
Right, a little bit of retribution. And I mean, look, I think that might have been. It might be too much to say like the most important goal of the season, but it was one of the most important goals just because what it signifies for this team in terms of the coming back in stoppage time what they've done before, like the NCFC game and also multiple other games.
Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha's. Oh god, yeah.
Fuego too.
He was still fun. And what I think also not just put Neil on 6 goals, which in my head when he said he had 6 goals, I'm trying to think back, like when did he score 4 others? But then I thought about it, I was like, oh snap, he really is like he's having his standout year this year, man.
Yeah. Once again, we get the benefit of the player scores against his former team element, so we're getting closer to squared up on that.
Right. Started to come a little bit more in our favor. But man, I mean, I thought there was another free kick on the opposite side of the field, kind of in the same position. And I was thinking to myself, like, what if he does it again? Like, and I'm pretty sure the goalkeeper had to be thinking that same thing.
You're talking about the last kick of the game?
Yeah, the very last kick of the game.
If the goalkeeper lets that one in straight through, I mean, he can walk home.
We might have to talk about USL League One match fixing and everything like that.
Yeah, that one was, I think, a good bit further out at that point. But I definitely had the thought too, seeing it was like, oh, if I was watching this, not knowing that in a draw, what I think, are they going to steal it again? Are they going to do another team dirty here?
It would have been something, man. It would have been something. But on one hand, it's a positive because Greenville Omaha dropped points against what was it, Tucson and
North Carolina
State. Which, by the way, I've watched those 2 games. Those were fun games to watch. Not just because of what it meant for Richmond, which is overall like those were really good games. Richmond with a draw. We can't go any further than 3rd. I know we can technically go 4th, but Tormentor's not scoring 19 goals in the last 2 games. It's not happening.
Well, it's not even that at this point. Tormentor plays Omaha, this weekend. So at least one of them's got to drop points. So that'll lock us into at least 3rd, no matter what the result of that game is.
Right. So we're locked into 3rd place. What that also means is that now we have what we wanted. We have a whole game at City Stadium, and I think pretty much my season expectations have been met. I'm good. And And with that, on the bad side of it, we got to put the champagne on ice for another week because we're not technically USL League One champions yet.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, first goal that we set, set at the beginning of the season of need to get home. Yeah, that's checked off the list. I'm hungry. I want more. I'm not just going to be satisfied. Like if this team is playing quarterfinal weekend, not feeling good.
No, let me ask you this question. Because I was listening to another podcast and they talked about it. Do you think a playoff is the best way to determine a champion? Like, do you think USL League One should be settled just by the regular season, or should it be by playoff?
Playoffs are fun. Like, it's not right now. It'd be close to being like okay for if you just wanted to give it a regular season's a champion because everybody's playing each other 3 times. But then a lot of it comes down to luck of which teams are you getting home twice versus where you having to go twice. Yeah, so it's not perfectly balanced in that way. I mean, that's why like all the European leagues can do it just fine because it's one home, one away against everybody, and that's why it doesn't make sense for most American sports because if the schedule is going to be a key player and are you champion or not, that's a little doesn't quite sit right for me. Also playoffs are fun.
They are fun, man. They are, but it's always like that one thing that sticks in the back of my head. I'm like, you can be one and done. You can be one.
You could, but if you're a bottom, you're like right now, would anybody care about Tucson's little like 1% hope run? If it was just the league champion winning, they would have been eliminated back in May.
Yeah. No, I mean you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it does kind of keep you interested because you're even looking around and you're like this weekend, like NCFC kept fighting to the very end. They got eliminated. Madison, who didn't play this weekend, got eliminated. Someone else got eliminated too. Fuego's on the verge of getting eliminated.
Yeah, they're not out yet, but
if they drop
they didn't do themselves any favors.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy. You talk about a team, and this is where I'm saying like Richard kind of that backed their way into it, but it's kind of like crazy how we're talking about this point of us being the number 1 seed because if you go back to August when we lost to Greenville 1-0 in the 89th minute, we were all like, Union Paul got games ahead. Greenville got this favorable end of the season stretch. Are we going to be in the running for it? And now you look now, it's like, yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean,
seeing how those teams have dropped points massively has been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this team's pulled together and they pull the clutch card at key moments this season, and I think the bigger thing is early on in the year it was all right. They're bleeding some of these losses. What's going on, and they found ways to turn a lot of these games that last year or other years they would have lost into a draw at least, especially since like mid-June or so.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's felt like a different switch in my head, but it's definitely a switch to the right position. This is another question I wanted to ask you. So I'm going to lay this all out here. You let me know where you rank it because I trust you. You're more of the Kickers historian than me.
Uh-oh.
If this team, regular season USL League One champions, playoff champions, MVP, Golden Boot winner, top assister, coach of the year, where would you rank this Richmond Kickers team at?
Oh, okay. It's a tough one because it's not like they've like just run through the regular season, right? Yeah, it's
like on one hand, it's like, are you the number 1 seed? You got all these accolades, but you've lost the 2 most important derbies is all. Like, granted, I mean, you played them the last 2 weeks, you can get wins, but you've lost the series overall.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily care about that part of it. I'm just trying to think big picture. I mean, obviously, if, you win trophies, you're rocking yourself up the list.
Yeah.
But like how did that compare to like a 2006 or a 2009 where they won everything, or even 95 is probably going to be tough, to beat as the gold standard.
I mean, okay, but that '95 team, did they win? I know they won U.S. Open Cup,
Yeah,
but but
finished
that's a
second.
cup tournament.
Yeah,
Like,
they won the cup. They
like
won the cup.
regular season.
They won the playoffs. I think
Okay,
they finished second in the division in regular season.
okay. So that '95 team is probably the gold standard.
It's going to be tough to knock them off. I mean, some of the early 2000s teams, hard lucked it in the playoffs. I mean, there's a very, very painful stretch in that era where, it was, lose the final, in overtime, go out on penalties in the final, go out on penalties in the final, there's some heartbreak in those days. So probably need to really think about it, a little bit deeper, but I wouldn't be surprised, have it end up, top 5 pretty solidly.
Okay. Top 5. That's not bad. Not bad.
And they just have to look at the finer points and the details, and kind of take a step back from it outside the moment and try to look more objectively. You can't do that for probably at least 6 months.
Understandably. Well, yeah, man. This team has opportunities, I think, since 2014, if I'm not mistaken, to win a regular season title.
2013.
2013. Okay.
Yeah. Finished ahead of Orlando. Only USL team, to finish ahead of Orlando during the Orlando USL days.
Yeah, that was a team. Yeah, so it'd be great, man. I mean, you just go back and look at that stretch, almost 10 years. It would be kind of impeccable. This is another cool thing that I found out. The USL League One final is November 6th? You also know what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you already know then. Never mind.
Well, no, I'm saying it's the weekend of November 6th. Like, I imagine if USL can finagle a 2 p.m. Start time on Friday, they'll make it be on 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon.
But if the final happens November 6th, which I think it is, that's the same day that Darren Sawaski signed to the Richmond Kickers back in 2019.
Did not remember that.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be like a full circle moment?
It might be one of the 2 talking points the announcers have for that game.
Might be. But hopefully it'd be good talking points, and Darren gets to say like, "Hey, I signed on the team, and I said I'm bringing a trophy, and I brought a trophy 3 years later."
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
I would too. That would be really
hit
good.
over the head with that storyline ad nauseum, because good things happen.
It's gonna happen. You know it's gonna happen. If you get to that final, you know that storyline's coming. I'm just preparing y'all for it now. It's coming. So we got that out of the way. Another USL League One news that we saw, because before we talk about Forward Madison and whatnot, Haji Berry, I don't know if any of y'all watched the championship. He just moved to, I think, Futures FC in Egypt for like $800,000. So I was having a conversation with Kyle and Chip. How much do you think Terzaghi will go for? Now, mind you, him and Haji are the same age. Both of them are 29.
So here's my thing. I don't know if I fully believe the numbers that they're putting out there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, with all kinds of, different potential incentives that could get up to that number. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's structured in a way that lets the USL put out there, oh, another record-breaking fee and blah 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 blah. Like, because here's my thing: how many transfers do you hear about going to Egypt for close to 7 figures for any team?
Not many,
right?
Well, maybe outside of what's the one team?
You got Al Akli and you got Zamalek.
Yeah, outside of those 2 teams, that's probably not many.
Right, and so you want to tell me that all of a sudden teams coming close to dropping, a cool mill on a guy at the championship who's like almost 30?
Hey,
Hey, I mean,
money to spend.
if it is legit, more power to Colorado Springs. I mean, kind of, big middle finger to your fans for selling off, star player right before the playoffs.
Right. That's the weird part. Because now it's like any hope you have of getting to a title is like, all right, it's not happening.
I mean, in fairness, they were not going to win the champion. They weren't going to win the league out there anyway. They were deceptively not good. Looking it up, Future FC. I don't know if their season's still going or not. Looks like it's not. They finished 5th this year, 21 points back. So they're run-of-the-mill Egyptian league team.
Yeah. But that's what I asked, man. Like, how much do you think Terzaghi will go for?
I mean, if you can find,
I hope we ever sell him, but how much do you think?
I mean, if you can find a random sucker out there, yeah, maybe stick, a half on there, maybe.
I can see it. I think 7, maybe 6, maybe. I'm going to go more 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I don't. How about we just keep him here? Let him, chase Deli's record.
Yeah, that's cool. Let him chase Deli's record. Let him have that. Hopefully, he'll chase a couple of more trophies that we'll bring into Richmond, league titles and everything like that. But let's go ahead. Let's shift our attention to the end of the season, Henny Derby, which, by the way, I finally mailed the trophy. I've been meaning to mail that since July, and I've just been like, I'll get around to it.
Got to make room for some more important trophies.
Right. I finally mailed it. So yeah, Henny Derby. What are we expecting, man?
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Madison, just comes in and punts at the end of the year because absolutely another disaster year for them. This year they have literally nothing to play for. I mean, if things went right yesterday, it really would have been a completely meaningless game for everybody. But what can you do? I don't see the Kickers being a daring team, something to play for, going in and laying down. So I think the Kickers are going to get out of there with at least a point and take care of business.
Yeah, it feels like a point's there. Depending on how other results go the other way, you kind of like, but a point be fine. Get out of there with a point. Come back home so we can party and hang out. Pretty much the biggest thing I want from this game is no injuries and maybe a Bolaños or Terzaghi goal or assist.
Yeah, I would like, obviously the no injuries piece, right? That's clearly the most important spot right now. Whether in this game or in the finale against Greenville, I would like to see the team get a clean sheet just to reinforce for my mind that they can pull through and do it. Because
that's true. That's also true.
I mean, it's bizarre. The team has the second fewest goals allowed in the league, and yet not many clean sheets at all. It's like consistently, shipping one.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, clearly it's worked out. It's been viable, but wouldn't mind putting a 0 up on the board for once.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right. And having a clean sheet would definitely help ease my mind. It would be no better spot to get against Max. Not gonna lie. I mean, I just think back again to 2019 where Richmond was in the table and where Ford Madison was, and then you kind of look 3 years onwards, and it's like the franchise that everyone was hyping in love with. It's kind of like teetered and petered out over the last 3 years with 3 different head coaches and culture changes. And we had one head coach over this man who, once again, I think the thing that we love most about Darian, like he always talks about culture, but he's really implementing a culture which has worked.
Yeah. Go figure. Soccer guys are probably going to build something more sustainable than social media guys.
There we go. That always works out. I'm pretty sure Ford Madison will have some weird, wonky theme night. So whatever it is, I hope it doesn't work out for them.
Hibernation night.
It's what?
No, I was making a joke saying it's
Oh,
hibernation. Hibernation, like after the game, they all go to sleep.
I thought no, but that's the thing. I 100% believe you're almost serious.
That could be a fun off-season game of which of these theme nights are legit.
Yeah, that 100% seems like it. I think the one person, well, actually, the two people for best you got to keep an eye on is Sting and Kasani. I think honestly, if you tell Ethan Bryant like, "Hey, I want you to mark Kasani out of the game the entire night," I think that'd be fine.
That's more of a Zaki job.
Yeah, I know, but I can see Zaki getting a red card in that situation, and I don't want that. So tell Ethan Bryant to be like, I want you to be the one who's locking him up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad with that. Starting lineup wise, do you think we're going to see the same starting lineup? Do you think Stu Ritchie comes back?
Of course, it's going to be the same.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like we said, it's all about right wing and right back. We know that. And left back. It's those two positions.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's not, then you start to wonder what's going on.
Right, unless somebody's getting rest. Which, do you think Darren starts kind of resting guys here or there? Like, do you think?
No.
You don't think so? You don't think he gives nobody a rest? Or, like, be like, hey, I'll, like, let Bentley start off at 11 and give Bolaños the second half?
They'll have a week off in a couple weeks.
True. All right. Well, there you have it.
And also, I don't think Darren's a guy to take the foot off the accelerator until he's across the finish line.
Yeah, that's also part of it. As we can tell by this game, the team definitely did line off the acceleration to the finish line. So, yeah. Hey, Matt, we are 1 point away, man. One more point till we can celebrate a regular season title.
On the brain. And you know what? Let's hope they get it done so that way, the home finale can just be, a coronation celebration.
Oh man, this is a huge ass party. That would be dope. Because I really don't want that Greenville game to mean anything.
Yeah, it's good. Nice, dry run in for playoff party. So that way we get a practice run, and then everybody's ready to bring it hard. Come the playoff game.
Right. Definitely, man. Be watching those and be ready for that. Anything from you, my man, before we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered pretty much all the key stuff going on right now. I know you had a little something outside the Kickers universe you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I did, and Matt. First of all, I want to thank you so much because if you were my co-host, I probably would have still been talking about it now. But I've kind of evened out now, and that's why I have you as a co-host. For those who wonder why no Shadir tonight, Shadir had the coach, so that's what he's on the show. But I just want to talk about the situations that are happening in NWSL and Chattanooga. And it's really disheartening to see that, like, people that are minorities or women or players of color are pretty much being taken advantage of and being abused. And I know there was the whole report that came out today for NWSL and the USL PA that represents the USL Championship and USL League One was pretty much making another statement again about how they pretty much believe Chattanooga was not doing enough to try to rectify the situation that has happened there. And for those who don't know, I mean, if you go on our social medias, you can see the retweets that we have about it. If you're interested in seeing that information, but it's just really sad to see. And I'm thankful that here in Richmond, I don't want to sound like we're just brushing off or anything like that, but I'm just really glad in Richmond that we have leaders in place like Mika, like Darren, like Rob that truly take care of their players and truly look out for the best interests of their players and not put them in situations where they're being abused or being taken advantage of. And it's really sad that you have teams like Chattanooga, who's already built off a weird foundation that, you put somebody in place that these players trust, and that was pretty much taking advantage of them. And NWSL and the system-wide abuse that was breaking out there, and players such as Kristen Press or Kate McCullough that came out that were told not to speak up about it. It's sad to see that. I just wish all the victims, the best, and I just wish that people believed in others when they talk about these kind of issues. So that's kind of like where I wanted to speak about. But that's about it.
Yeah, no, I think well said. I mean, a lot of people get into power positions and let their inner shitty selves out, and need to find a way to weed those people out before they get there in the first place.
Yeah, which you would think like a whole organization would do something about vetting. We had to get vetted for our jobs. What? That's a whole other issue that I'm not going to get into because we will be here for a whole other hour.
There you go.
Right. But Matt, as always, buddy, I appreciate you for doing this show with me.
Yeah, always a good time, especially when the team is 5 points clear with 2 to go.
Right. Hopefully, we never have to do another emergency podcast ever again on the show. That would be awesome.
I mean, that depends on for sure. I mean, we could do an emergency one next week for We the Champs.
Yeah, that is true. But as always, Kickers fans, we want to say thank you for taking time out of your day for listening to our show. If you can, take a moment, like the show on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, we want to say thank you. Leave us a like, subscribe, share, review, share with a friend. We'll holler at you guys next week. Be easy.